Sorry, I'm getting old, so I need my glasses to read this from the screen. I want to talk about responses after Fukushima, and we did a comparative analysis of Germany and the Netherlands last year already, but the talk I do is based on that. I'm Dirk Banning. I'm an anti-nuclear activist for already a long time. I'm the founder of the Laka Foundation in 1980. I was editor of the Nuclear Monitor until last year, and I published Radiating Posters in 2011, a month before Fukushima. So there are no Fukushima posters in the book. It's a book with 600 posters, and it's you can buy it at the Pavilion, I think it's called, just outside the building where the poster exhibition is. And last year I did a report on management of spent fuel and radioactive waste, the state of affairs in all countries with a nuclear program, so in about 40. The Laka Foundation is a documentation and research center on nuclear energy. It's based in Amsterdam. We are also campaigning against nukes. We are not only collecting material or researching. We are an active part of the Dutch movement against nuclear power. We have several websites, www.laka.org and Kernenergie in Nederland.nl, which is the history of nuclear power in the Netherlands. Well, I have 49 slides and 20 minutes, so that's 23 seconds per slide. So if the alarm clock can be set at 23 seconds, then it would help. The Laka Foundation is doing research on the civil and military use of depleted uranium, the history of nuclear power in the Netherlands. We have digitized all election programs from all political parties from 1952 on, when the first time political parties spoke about nuclear power. We are monitoring decommissioning and decontamination in historical buildings, mainly in Amsterdam. And at the moment, we do research at alternative ways to produce nuclear medicines. Nuclear medicines are produced mainly in nuclear reactors, but because we think nuclear energy is not a good idea, we are researching other ways of producing nuclear medicines. And we have a free daily mailing list with news and analysis about nuclear power in the Netherlands. As said, this statement is based on the paper Responses of Chernobyl and Fukushima, a comparative analysis of Germany and the Netherlands. But first, a few facts on nuclear power. There are about 437 nuclear reactors, most of them between 24 and 32 years of age, so very old. Fukushima, by the way, Fukushima 1 was 30 years old when, 40 years old even, 1973, when the accident happened. The total number, the most nuclear reactors are located in the United States of America. There's only one in the Netherlands. Not many countries started a nuclear power program, only 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 in the last 30 years. And you see that after Chernobyl, the accident in the Ukraine in 1986, no country started a nuclear program. At the moment, the country with the most advanced plans for a nuclear program is Abu Dhabi in the Middle East. Okay, from Chernobyl Chernobyl to Fukushima. First, I will make clear how the situation was in 1986 when Chernobyl happened. There was in the Netherlands a very strong anti-nuclear movement, and most political parties were against nuclear energy. From 1973 on, there were plans for 3 more nuclear power plants, but because there was no public acceptance, they were shelved in 1986 after Chernobyl. In 1997, Dodewaard, the other nuclear power plant in the Netherlands, was closed because of a lack of perspective for nuclear power. But at the same time, there was hardly any energy debate. Energy was not an issue. Nuclear power was certainly not an issue in the society. So the nuclear industry took their chances and came up with a plan to build another nuclear power plant. And there was no anti-nuclear sentiment left in the years 2000. The situation in West Germany was comparable. There was a very strong anti-nuclear movement, but most political parties were in favor of nuclear power in the 70s and early in the 1980s. In 1986, when Chernobyl exploded, until 1986, the nuclear program was enforced by state power. There were many giant riots, and police repression and state repression was very harsh. The situation changed in the 1990s, and as a result, in the year 2000, there was a phase-out law signed, which said that all nuclear reactors should be closed in 2022, or in 2021, at the end of 2021. And that was mainly because there was a new political party, and that was the Green Party, Die Grünen. And that made a lot of difference in the political landscape. In 2010, Angela Merkel, who is a nuclear physician, extended the phase out until 2035. But that led to a lot of civil unrest from the civil society, but also from the energy sector, because of the phase-out law from the year 2000, many enterprises were working on renewables and energy efficiency and energy saving measures. So the situation in March 2011, Germany had a pro-nuclear government at the time, the Christian Democrats and the Liberals. There were 17 reactors in operation, and there was a long history of anti-nuclear struggle. For the Netherlands, they had a government from the same composition, the Christian Democrats and the Liberals, 1 reactor working, and a long history of anti-nuclear struggle. Then Fukushima in March 2011. There were several responses. Germany, for instance, the popular resistance, the resistance on the streets grew enormously, was already big because of the extension of the phase-out law by Angela Merkel. But within weeks there were demonstrations in Berlin with over 100,000 people. Many political parties felt the pressure from those people who were part of their organization, and not only from the socialists or from the Grünen, but also by the Christian Democrats. And the economic interest in energy transition were already very big. So that was a complicating factor for the pro-nuclear government. This resulted in closure of all the 6 plants, and all those 6 plants were not as old as the only Dutch plant, Borselen. So they were, and Borselen is of German design. So the year 2000 phase-out schedule was restored. So Angela Merkel withdrew their own law for the extension of the phase-out. So all nuclear power plants should be closed in 2021. For the Netherlands, there was one large demonstration on Dam Square in April 2011 with 10,000 people, which is very large for the Netherlands. But there was no anti-nuclear, no energy debate in society as a whole. And the demonstration was against a new reactor and not against nuclear energy. That's too much. I'm looking to the wrong slide. The parties, especially the left-wing parties, because there's a division between anti-nuclear parties are mostly left-wing parties, pro-nuclear parties are mostly right-wing parties. Although that was the opposite in the early 50s and in the 60s. Then the left-wing parties were opposing nuclear power, were for nuclear power, and especially the Christians were opposing nuclear power. But the parties took a more clear anti-nuclear stand, but this did not result in a major debate on energy transition. And that's mainly because the CDA, the VVD, and the party that endorsed the government, because they had no majority in the parliament, the PVV had a more or less an irrational position on nuclear power. And this resulted in mainly nothing. Nothing happened in parliament. The government said, well, the market decides, we have nothing to say about what is built in the Netherlands, or we cannot exclude nuclear power. It's up to the market. And the market, historically, has vested interests in centralized production, in coal, gas, and nukes. There was one minor result because all those parties who were in favor of nuclear power said that nuclear power was the only energy source who could exist without subsidies, which is a blatant lie. But then, because they said that, they couldn't subsidize nuclear power, and at the end, that was one of the reasons that the plan for a new nuclear reactor in the Netherlands was withdrawn. So the main differences in responses: a fierce energy debate, closure of 6 oldest nuclear reactors and a phase out by 2021 in Germany, but in the Netherlands it didn't change much. The continuation in first, just after Fukushima, it was decided that the continuation of construction plans, and there was no economic or political power for sustainable movement. Why was that? Why are the differences from countries which are comparable so large? The Netherlands in the 80s was more or less coming from an open society. In the late 60s and the 70s, there was a very large political movement. The involvement NGOs, of civil society was very large, and actually participation was encouraged. And as a second reason was that the anti-nuclear movement was part of the power structure and almost of the establishment. That was, and the Netherlands in the 2011, the political majority thought that nuclear power was a way to get back to the environmental movement, and they hated the environmental movement. So it was an irrational choice for nuclear power, more or less. And the market forces should decide. There was no civil society. The market dominated the debate and the decision making. And then Germany. Germany in the 80s was coming from a more or less closed society. It was very much polarized. There was less participation of civil society in institutionalized structures. For example, political parties, trade unions. And the anti-nuclear movement was a political movement, was very much a political movement, much more than in the Netherlands. It was isolated, it was radical left-wing, it was anti-establishment, autonomous, and it was not in the center, not even in the periphery of power structures. Germany in 2011, there was a consensus on the direction, which way to go, and that was energy transition, phasing out nukes and coal. Only the pace in which the energy transition should take place differed. Okay, and now after 16 minutes and 45 seconds, I will come to the global impact of Fukushima and take a few examples of other countries. In Japan, there were at the moment of Fukushima 54 reactors in operation. Last year in May, the last one was closed, but in July, one was restarted, and in August last year, the second was restarted. But still, they function with 52 reactors less than 2 years ago. And the anti-nuclear movement in Japan grew enormously. Unfortunately, they chose a liberal government last December, which stated that they will restart all reactors and not end the nuclear program. China banned new construction after Fukushima. China is the country with the largest number of nuclear reactors under construction and planned, an enormous amount, although they scale it down every 2 years. But the ban has been lifted meanwhile, but the number of reactors under construction will be less than anticipated until Fukushima. And Taiwan, last weekend at the commemoration of Fukushima, the largest demonstration in the world happened in Taipei, the capital of Taiwan. 120,000 people demonstrated there, and there were 4 more demonstrations in Taiwan. A total of 200,000 people took part in demonstrations against its nuclear program. And Taiwan now said that they will phase out nuclear power and not construct any new ones, but they didn't state a date for closing the last one. Italy. Italy is an interesting example. After Chernobyl, when Italy had 6 reactors working, there was a referendum, and the anti-nuclear voice won, and all reactors were closed. Berlusconi in 2009 started a new offensive to start a nuclear program. And there was a new referendum called on June, in early June. But when Fukushima happened, Berlusconi knew he lost, and he tried to take back the referendum. But the highest court in Italy decided that the referendum should take place. And of course, a majority was against nuclear power, so all the plans are shelved again now and forever, I think. Switzerland decided to phase out nuclear power by 2033. Belgium to phase out nuclear power in 2022. Germany, 6 nuclear power plants closed and phased out by 2021. Mistake. And then, well, I had some more examples. South Korea, France, Lithuania, and Bulgaria all scaled down their nuclear program and will close reactors in the near future. Thank you.